Hello everyone, it is Allie and I am back. It's been a very long time since I've made a video, over a year to be exact, but I'm finally back. I plan on doing some more videos and all that stuff, but today I kind of want to talk about my life over the past year and some of the things that I've been through. I'm not gonna lie, it is a pretty serious topic, and I do want to give a trigger warning for mental health, self-harm, and suicide. So heavy things. But I want to share this because I want to share my story and hopefully help some other people through this process. So if you are watching this, thank you. And yeah. So last time I filmed, I want to say I was on 2 months of hormones. Now it's been a year and like 3 months. But after that period of time, it was summer of 2017. I was still living in Toledo, Ohio, and I was working. I had 2 different jobs. I was working a lot and kind of just living my life. I decided that I was gonna move in with my mom who lives in Pittsburgh, and I was gonna go there for a little while, save some money, and do all of the fun, responsible things. So I left both of my jobs. I quit both of my jobs. Then, the week before I decided I was gonna move, I changed my mind completely. So I can start off by saying I've been diagnosed with bipolar disorder, which was found out as of recently, like in the past 6 months. And so at the time, I think I was in what I would consider like a hypomanic stage. So I was feeling very confident, very like, let's take on the world, let's do crazy things. So I decided not to move. I was like, you know what? I have no future plans. I can do whatever I want. The world is like open for me and the possibilities, so I decided not to move. And there I was left with no job, no money, and kind of no place to stay because I had told my roommate at the time I was gonna move out. Well, I ended up staying, and over the next few months, I had 2 different jobs, both of which I worked out for maybe a week. During that time, I fell into a pretty low depression that was fueled by a couple things. I think it started with the stress of my financial situation. So my roommate told me, that I could stay and continue to live there as long as I got another job and continued to pay for bills. So I was like, okay, yeah, I can do that. Well, I became very apathetic. I barely applied to jobs, and I didn't get the money that I needed. So the 2 of us ended up falling behind on bills, and it got pretty bad financially. And for me, it caused a lot of stress, and that really put me into a low place. So after I had left the first job that I was hired to, about 2 weeks after, I'd gotten another position with Planet Fitness, and let me interject saying that I've had a history with depression. For me, it kind of goes in cycles. It's definitely very seasonal, where towards fall, winter, I definitely get into like this funk, and I get a lot more apathetic, a lot more in my head, and it's a lot harder for me to be as productive and optimistic as I usually am. For those of you who know me know that I am a very happy and optimistic person, but I tend to really get inside myself during that period of time. So that was present, and then with all the other factors that was going on at the time, that was also adding in to my feelings. So anyway, I was at this job, it was full-time, and like I said, things had gotten pretty bad. I had lots of suicidal thoughts. You know, I felt like I was letting people down, especially my roommate. I felt like a burden to people because I was so down. I was so kind of out of it mentally that I hated putting that onto somebody else and talking about it. Even the people who were most close with me, I didn't want them to, I guess, have to deal with me and what I was going through. And so that's what happened. The week was, I think, the second week that I was working at Planet Fitness, and I was supposed to go into work. I want to say it was at 1, and for whatever reason, I'd got it in my head the night before to go get, and again, I'll interject, I do not want to cause any sort of mental trauma to anybody watching this, so stop here if anything further is gonna trigger you. But I decided for whatever reason that I needed to go get box cutter blades. And so I got them on a Monday night, and it was Tuesday. And like I said, I had to be at work at 1. It's around 12. I had been by myself all day, and like I said, very in my head. And I thought, well, I will just cut myself once. And I usually would cut on my thighs because it was hidden and nobody would know. And one turned into 3, turned into 10. And I kept going, and I couldn't really stop. It was the worst that I had ever been, and let's just say it ended up covering both of my thighs. It was a lot. And I finally, well, in the midst of all of this, I really worked myself up, and I am not typically a hyper emotional person. Because of the hormones, I have been, I went through a period of time before this where I was more emotional, but at this point it had kind of, everything had kind of evened out. But I became very emotional. I was sobbing, and I really couldn't stop what I was doing. I ended up calling my roommate, who was one of my very close friends, and he was at work. I told him I needed help. He rushed home, and long story short, I ended up going to the hospital. Luckily, my self-harm was not enough to need stitches or anything like that. But I was admitted to the psychiatric ward, and I was there for about 5 days, and then I had gotten back out. So this was early October. 2 weeks passed, and I ended up cutting my legs severely again. This time, I didn't tell anyone. I'd also cut a little bit on my arms, so that was noticeable to my roommate. And he was obviously very worried and not okay with it. I didn't tell anyone about my legs, though, because I didn't want to worry anyone anymore, and at the time, I didn't care. When I got out of the hospital, I had thought that I was going to start over and have this fresh start and blank slate, but I didn't allow myself to do that. I didn't want to at the time. So that happened 2 weeks after. And about another 2 weeks after that, things have just kept getting worse. And it was a Friday in early November. And I decided that I'd had enough, and I started taking pills. It was a sleeping pill that I had been prescribed because I'd been unable to sleep very well. And I took a lot of them. And after taking all of them, I of course started to freak out. I called a different friend and told him what happened. I had tried to throw them up. Nothing happened. Nothing came out. And I called this other friend. He said, I either need to take an ambulance or drive to the hospital as soon as possible. And in my mind, I didn't want to take an ambulance because I don't know if it was embarrassment or what. So I ran and I got my keys and I got in my car. I made about 2 turns and then I don't remember anything else for about 2 days. My friend stayed on the phone with me and he said that I made it to the hospital. I was falling on the way into the emergency room and I think I was calling for help. And that's all that I heard from him. I woke up in a medical unit and my mom was there. And after being in the medical unit for I think 2 days, I went back up to a psych unit and was there for another like 5 days to a week. And I think at this point, like, you never know, like, how much your brain can affect you until it becomes your enemy. And that's what happened to me. I felt crazy. And I know that anyone else who's ever been in a situation similar to this can empathize with that. I felt crazy. I was so ashamed. It was just horrible. It was my lowest point. And it's hard to think about because, like, sorry, I'm trying not to cry. Everything's fine. But, like, it's hard to think about because I never thought I would be there. And it really makes you re-examine who you are and what you are here for and your life. And it was after being in the hospital that second time that I knew that I had 2 options. It was either I'm going to leave and end up dead if I didn't do anything, or I was going to leave and I was going to make a change and I was going to start over, basically. And that's what happened, thankfully. I am so blessed that I was safe, that I made it to the hospital. I am so blessed that I had supportive people in my life who care so much about me and who cared so much about me. And they didn't make me feel more crazy. They validated who I was and what I was going through, and it helped me to know that I was going to be okay and that I was going to be able to come through that experience. So when I left the hospital, I moved that next week in with my mom and my stepdad in Pittsburgh. And I was in an outpatient program for 10 days. And then I kind of restarted my life. I will say that it has been such a crazy journey since then. It was then that I was diagnosed with bipolar. My bipolar tends to be, it's bipolar 2, so I don't usually hit like super hypermania, but like high mania, but a mania that's not so intense. And I have pretty deep depression. And since then, I think I've really worked on taking life one day at a time. I get so stressed if I think about the far future, or, you know, what I'm going to do with my life, or how I'm going to survive and live and my purpose and all of these kind of big ideas I get so in my head about, and it stresses me out. It gives me really bad anxiety. And learning to take life one day at a time, learning to appreciate the small things, is something that I've really, really focused on over the last 6 months. I think that I've really worked on also getting out of my head and not assuming what other people think of me, not assuming, you know, I used to get anxiety walking into the grocery store. I thought people were staring at me. I thought people had all of these judgments of me. And at the time, again, I was in a depression, so like all of these things really affected me. But it's about changing the course of your thinking patterns. Seeing, like, I can recognize when I'm starting to go down that path, when I'm starting to have these thoughts. And so I try my hardest to interject and say, you know what, I don't know what they're thinking, or I go the route of, you know, well, I am who I am, and I'm going to be confident in that. Whatever it takes for me to change that mindset around so that I don't go down that spiral. Am I better? No. Absolutely not. I have bad days. Everyone has bad days. But again, what I've learned is that it's okay to have these bad days. It's okay to not be okay. There is such a stigma around mental health. And it like drives me crazy, because everybody needs to know that like you're allowed to like feel your feelings and not be okay. We're human. We don't have to be these perfect people. And through all of this, I really feel that I've come such a long way. I've come so much more into my own and allowing myself to breathe. So I never, ever thought that I would get to this point. If you told me in September of 2017, October, November, if you told me that like I would be at this point where I'm excited about where I'm at, I'm excited about my future, I would have thought you were crazy. I would have thought you were lying. But I can say that it's possible. It takes so much work. And obviously, I'm not perfect. I am not cured. I work every day to be okay. But it is possible. For anybody who is suffering, or for anybody who has mental health issues, like, it's all right to seek help. I honestly think that I needed to go to the hospital those times, because it showed me that there are so many people who fall on hard times in their life, or who, you know, have issues with their mental health, and it's not something that, you know, is wrong. It's not something that's like wrong. It's something that happens. It's part of, you know, your brain chemistry and your circumstances in life, and that's all right. But through that, you learn more about yourself and how to better, you know, help yourself in the future. You know, will I end up in a bad place again? I'm sure. But I know now steps to help me to prevent that. So I encourage everyone to just check in with yourself about where you're at, how you're feeling, and allow yourself to be okay with not being okay. I want to thank everybody who supported me through this time. You know, close people in my life know about it, but most people don't. I've been very quiet about this because it's been very hard. But I thank all of the people who have helped. Even the people who didn't know, who've supported me, thank you too. On a positive note, even though I guess some of that's positive, but I am moving to Columbus, Ohio. I think that I've gotten to the point where I am able to be back out on my own to pursue things in life. But I'm so excited. I am moving in with one of my best friends here in Columbus, and I'm excited to get back out there and be excited to live every day. So there's that. I do plan on being more vocal and being open about myself and my life. I think something I've realized also through this is that I want to help people. I want people to know that it's okay to be you. It's okay to struggle, because that's part of life. We are all human, and that happens to all of us. So I thank you again for watching this and for being so supportive. Know that everything can be okay. And if you ever struggle with that, let me know or let somebody else know, because we will help you. So I love you all so very much. I'm so excited that I'm here, that I've made it to this point, and I'm so excited for the future. So I will talk to you all later. Thank you so much.